Seth Tippins. It'll be Tippins for the Lakers facing off against Quintero for the Eagles. Basketball held in the hands of Carl Birch as we've reached this quarterfinal round. We'll also move to a 3-official crew. And those 3 officials include the aforementioned Birch, Steve Brisson, and Wyatt Morse. So officiating our proceedings, nice crowd of spectators has already made their way in. Second consecutive year of hosting for this venue. Word's out that this is an amazing opportunity to catch some special athletes, and you can already see those crowds swelling on day one. I can only imagine what it's going to look and feel like on Championship Sunday in a couple days. Opening tap controlled by the Eagles. Tippins was able to poke that free, but it will remain with Marquette. Well, no Cinderellas in March Madness this year on the men's side. For the first time since 2008, all 4 1 seeds advanced into the Final Four, which begins tomorrow night. However, Marquette pulled really the only big upset in the opening round, a round of 16, as that shot went wanting for Quintero. Court shield from Jackson to free Horn. Right back to Jen. Roll reversal as Horn feeds Jen Jackson.
Yeah, Jen Jackson opens up the runway for Horn just to get it right back as the lead trailer. Good roll to the basket, opens up the scoring for the Lakers.
Lakeshore trying to muck things up in the middle a bit on the advancement for Marquette. Quintero looking for it back, shadowed by Tippins. Good look from the angle, but wouldn't fall for Kat Redden. 4 seniors for Lakeshore. Jen Jackson, one of those 4. Again, we remember her fondly and impressively from her performance a year ago here in Richmond. Lakeshore defeated the Charlotte Roland Hornets, who are in action at the moment in another of our quarterfinals, as Pee Wee Kemp is fouled, and he'll shoot a pair at the line. Foul was assessed to Julian Rivera. First team foul against Marquette. But back to that championship game, it was quite the scene last year, crowning Lakeshore for a 2nd consecutive season. The year prior, they had bested the Kansas City Kings in that national championship game. You know, Pee Wee Kemp is chomping at the bit to get involved. He did not play this morning in a dominant 55-10 victory. Savannah Gardner said simply, we had some things to work out. We worked them out, and Pee Wee is full go for this afternoon. Quick steal off the inbound by Kemp. Now Tippins. Big man, big skills. Unable to corral the offensive rebound was Etheridge, and finally controlled by Quintero for Marquette. Kemp harassing in the open floor. Quick twirl from Quintero. Strong right hand, and eventually he'll call his own number and swirl it out. No good.
Oh, it's been great defense so far from the Lakers early on. No shots down the middle. They've mostly forced them to take shots outside from that center stage, and Rivera took one earlier, missed just now. So if the Lakers keep playing like this and crash the offensive glass as they have, it looks like it'll become a Lakers win.
Shot clock was short. Horn got the shot off, but could not connect. Did avoid the violation. Marquette ball. A slight early deficit for the Eagles. Golden Eagles, to be more precise. Of course, mimicking college that shares their hometown in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Guided by a man they know very well here in Richmond, Shaka Smart, the head coach of the Marquette Golden Eagles. And of course, he led hometown VCU as Horn slips by to cash in a nice dime from Kemp.
Yeah, this is their little guard head, or guard three-headed monster, I'd like to call it. Jin to Kemp to a cutting Horn. That's poetry right there. Just forces the defender to close in on the guy that has it, and that creates a mismatch eventually.
Jackson Horn on the other end, though, called for a hold. He just reached out and grabbed the chair of Quintero trying to pass by. Well, again, Marquette trying to play Cinderella this weekend in Richmond. Mentioned Shaka Smart by way of a stint at Texas to Marquette after guiding VCU, the hometown university, here to an improbable and incredible Cinderella run to the Final Four back in 2011. Great look from the short corner will fall for Taylor Post. Quickly answered by Lakeshore.
Yeah, great answer there by Lakeshore. Just answer immediately after getting a rebuttal from the post bucket.
Leaning back in the chair is Quintero and short on the shot.
Yeah, Quintero trying to get into a rhythm early. He's taken a few. Unfortunately, hasn't hit any yet. But if he can get hot and they keep giving him those looks, it'll be trouble for the Lakers.
See that maneuverability from Pee Wee Kemp, the best in the country. Jackson trying to roll into the free throw line effort. Collected by Quintero. Quintero trying to make Tippins chase with a little aid from Ava Finger. And Etheridge forced that turnover. Here is Jackson on the approach, unencumbered. So re-rack. Try again and connect.
Jim Jackson, as aggressive as ever, misses the shot in transition, gets her own rebound. Nobody covered her along the baseline, just swishes the second one.
And again, an early 9-2 advantage for the Lakers. And I've had opposition coaches tell me it's a suffocating feeling to play against Lakeshore. You feel like you're battling possession by possession as a foul's called on Pee Wee Kemp. Second team foul against Lakeshore. They say, you know, possession by possession, slowly Lakeshore inches away from you, then hits you with a haymaker, and before you know it, you're in big time trouble.
And that's the thing that gets you. They can just come in waves, and it's just so tough to contain because they have so many weapons.
Quintero well positioned for the weak side rebound, but putback goes wanting. Here comes Jackson Horn. Working on Rivera. Got it to Kemp. And those two play such an excellent two-man game, and a timeout taken by head coach Jordan Wilkins of the Marquette Golden Eagles. And like you say, you can't let Lakeshore wander too far out in front of you, and that's exactly what Coach Wilkins is thinking right now. 11-2, and for Lakeshore on the offensive end, Max, to this point, they've kind of gotten everything they wanted.
Yeah, they've gotten everything they wanted, but most importantly, when they don't, what do they do after? They go after it. They've gotten multiple offensive rebounds. They've shown more effort to want to score the ball more, and that is something the Eagles have struggled with containing. Also with the fact that they haven't been shooting the ball as well to open up the game, forcing Rivera to take some tough shots leaning back. They're making it difficult for them to go into the action that they want. This Lakers team just yet again proving that they are one of the best teams in the country.
And Coach Gardner over here, if she had a headset on, would be saying, guys, You're talking about our offense, really? We've played almost 5 quarters. We've given up 12 points thus far. The defense has been pretty darn good, too.
Yeah, the defense is infectious, to say the least. And they say the best thing in a team is communication and trust. And you can see that these guys trust each other. They're vocal about what they want to do. They're vocal about their coverages. They're not making any screen and roll possible for the opposing team. And when you take away that, one of the most fundamental plays in your book, who knows what you can create out of it.
Marquette, meanwhile, has played through Quintero for the most part thus far. Let's see what the adjustments are from Coach Wilkins out of his own called timeout. Trying to involve Quintero, but utilize him off the ball. And Jackson Horn, other ideas as he wrenches it away for the Lakeshore Lakers. Kemp just intuitively knew where Horn was, and he'll knock that down every day of the week and twice on Friday.
You got to reward him for good defense. Read the passing lane, played physical, got the steal. And he knew he was going to get the ball back. He was trailing and waiting for that swish.
Jackson Horn did not win the three-point shooting contest, which just preceded this quarterfinal game, but he put on quite the show in a few rounds. Young man can flat out shoot the ball and flat out work his chair as well. Leaning back from close range, didn't get it. The rebound to Quintero. Eagles desperately need some positivity on the offensive end.
Yeah, they really do. Rivera has struggled, and any pass they make looks like it's one steal away.
And Kemp playing ferocious basketball right now. Oh, and our broadcast crew is just about whole here. We're, of course, missing Todd Pettit this weekend, but Dr. Court Schneider has just joined us courtside, Max, and because of that, we just got a whole lot better.
Oh, we got a whole lot better. I've never met somebody like Court Schneider before with the brain that he does. And after working with him last year, I'm still talking to my parents about that experience working with him.
You'll hear from Court throughout the course of the weekend as well. He'll be aiding us in terms of statistics and information as well. But we'll go to a 3-man booth for Championship Sunday, which is obviously on Sunday. Tippins, nice look from Horn.
Sometimes it's nice beating the big man for a free two-piece.
And this is I don't want to call it quiet because it's been impressive, but nonetheless, a methodical 10-0 run for Lakeshore after a 5-2 start to this game. Only bucket of the ball game thus far belonged to Taylor Post. It was on that baseline 15-foot effort. And just way too much Pee Wee Kemp on the defensive end. Jackson slowed, and Lakeshore doing a nice job of backpicking. But here comes Quintero, and you see his blazing speed, and he gets to the bucket to disrupt that 10-0 run.
And Johnny Quintero moving along, and luckily he got a blocker on the way to set the screen. Gave him the free runway, and you're not catching him.
See some aggressive backpicking in the backcourt. His Horn nearly got wobbled out of his chair, but still able to flip it up and in.
Like a magician, just created something out of nothing on that one.
And there were 2 feats on that bucket, staying upright and scoring the basketball. So Quintero finally got the lid off on the last possession. Jackson just harassing Redden, but she's able to maneuver by her, flip it up and in.
Yeah, that's a nice adjustment by Redden. Jackson went for the steal. She saw it coming, maneuvered around her. Enough separation to knock down the foul line jumper.
Couple of seconds remaining in the quarter, and Lakeshore will not get a shot off. So The number 3 seed Lakeshore Lakers, the two-time defending national champions, playing like it in the first quarter, but a little bit of positivity for the Golden Eagles as we hit the first break. Second quarter straight ahead. This is our first quarterfinal, and this is the National Wheelchair Basketball Championships from the Henrico Sports and Events Center. What's up, buddy? How are you, man?
Good. Good to see you, bro. Great to see you.
You here the rest of the night?
Yeah.
Want to do the 8 o'clock game with Max? I
Yeah.
gotta take off, and I'll bring the third headset in.
Yeah.
For me, what is important is that I possibly had a little piece of something to do with you and your game along the way. It's all about the person next to you, man. I always felt that way with teammates and in life, you know. It's about other people. I played for the U.S. national team for 4 different decades and was a captain of most of those teams. And there was some gold medals and other medals and a lot of jubilation and a lot of heartbreak along the way. But all that's got me to this point right now where I'm in a give back mode. I've always felt that way about basketball, is to not just be on the take. I became commissioner of the NWBA as a player just because of my desire to try to leave the sport better than.
Second quarter underway. Jackson Horn.
3-on-3 came to me because I love street ball.
17-6 the lead for Lakeshore. Balanced attack thus far. The Formex powering our broadcast and these championships. Tippins got the shot off ahead of the shot clock expiring. Horn passes off Quintero. And all the way around and down for Taylor Post. So the Lakers, Max, through the quarterback, that's 3 consecutive possessions where they've found the bottom.
Yeah, 3 consecutive possessions for them. They're that dangerous for a reason, and they're just going after it. It was another offensive rebound for Horn, which just helped propel the run, but also a good shot by Taylor Post, now leading all scores for WASA.
One and done possession on the other end for Lakeshore. Gianni Quintero on the reversal and an unforced turnover. Pass from Rivera. Tried to find Alec Lesh in the corner. Lesh in off the bench for Marquette. No look behind the head pass from Kemp, and finishing it off is Horn. What was more impressive, Max, the pass or the bucket?
Well, it has to be the pass. And behind the head pass for a cutter, that's tough to do.
Called it intuitive earlier, but there's just so much familiarity between Kemp and Horn. It's like a quarterback and a receiver. They just know where each other are on the court at all times. Wouldn't fall, meanwhile, for Post, and here comes Horn. Splitting the middle, dumping it off to Tippins, who dumps it home.
They just keep piling on the pressure, and they keep rolling down the floor like a huge tidal wave that's just waiting to hit you. Little did you know, the score is now 21-8 for the Lakers.
Quintero, nice patience, finds Rivera. Couldn't finish the play. And a foul on the hold on Rivera. Did not want to get Lakeshore off in transition. And you see the predicament that defenses face against this Lakeshore team. Take another look. No look pass. And I don't know physically how he was able to lean back and make that work. But the problem defensively is you've got 3 players that can all essentially act as the point guard. Jackson, Jin Jackson, Jackson Horn, and also Pee Wee Kemp. And then you've got a big man in Tippins who can take up space, and then you've got a jack of all trades in Madison Etheridge.
It's kind of like picking your poison as to what you're trying to deal with.
Quintero. Here comes Kemp again. Kemp got through everybody. Couldn't finish it. Contact off the ball, and it's going to be a foul against Alec Lesh. You saw Tippins go flying there in front of his own bench. And Lesh will get called for the personal.
Yeah, right in front of referee Steve Briston. Right in front of our table as well, so we had literally the best view of that call.
Lakeshore bench having some fun. We got a soda spill, though, on the court. So we're going to need to clean that up before we continue. Somebody get a towel. We'll be right back to the Sports and Events Center. 13-point lead for the two-time defending champs.
What would you say to that freshly injured veteran looking to get involved in adaptive sports?
I found my outlet through wheelchair basketball.
A lot of us are used to, having weapons in the military. Now Formax is our new M16.
It's our new battle buddy. Once they find a chair that suits them, anything's possible.
When you understand the ins and outs of a chair or your weapon, you're unstoppable.
Well, we're still looking for that towel, squeegee, mop. I don't know. We've got a spilled Diet Coke, though, just in front of the Lakeshore bench, and an impromptu timeout as the Lakeshore Lakers got it reversed there on our score graphic. Lakeshore leading 21-8 over the Marquette Golden Eagles. Birmingham, Alabama facing off against Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Quarterfinal round. Got another quarterfinal for you coming up at 6 o'clock tonight, where we'll find the Ranchos Halos, the number 7 seed, taking on the second-seeded RHI Racers. And if the seeds hold, and not to say that they will, as this Marquette team has already sprung one upset over the Utah Rush earlier today, but if they were to hold, and we got that 2-3 matchup between RHI and Lakeshore tomorrow in the semifinals, that would be one that many, many people would have an eye on. Meanwhile, the top-seeded LWSRA Hawks, who dispatched the 16-seed New York Fury, 20-point win bright and early this morning, 55-35. They're currently in action against the Charlotte Rollin' Hornets. The 8-seeded Hornets were able to work their way past the 9-seed Dallas Junior Mavs, and the other quarter that will take place at 6 o'clock on court 9. It'll be the Brooks Bull Sharks and the Kansas City Kings. So both of the programs that Lakeshore has defeated in the last couple of years on the other side of the bracket, but both of those programs will at one point or another, if it were to be Lakeshore in the championship game, have to pull a pretty big upset, or two in Charlotte's case. We've got towels, we've got effort, and we nearly have a dry floor. Phenomenal staff of volunteers and staff. See Dr. Court Schneider there joining us. It's to my right. 21-8 is the lead. John Laser, Max Cates with you, courtside, and Dr. Schneider pointing out you can see the physical maturation of some of these players from year to year, and of course you have the quartet of seniors, Max, so definitely get to that point where you can start changing the body a little bit, adding some strength. It'll be Lakeshore ball off the foul that was called against Alec Lesh. Away from the ball. Meanwhile, Seth Tippins has been nothing but smiles ever since the soda spill. Meanwhile, Coach Gardner threw her hands up, said that wasn't mine, and kind of backed away from the scene the entirety of the cleanup process. A lot of smiles at the national championships. That is generally the case. By the way, I mentioned Jackson Horn competed in that three-point contest along with a ton of outstanding shooters, but Caden Schaff, who we saw put on a 20-point show in just 3 quarters of action for the RHI Racers, is your three-point national champion. And we'll get to see him again 6 o'clock tonight. Jackson, it's too easy.
Yeah, she's using the screens so well to pick when she wants to go for that shot. She just times it well on when to make the decision.
15-point lead is the largest of the game thus far for Lakeshore. Previously held a 15-2 lead. Short clock, Quintero had to force it up. And the rebound cleaned up by Kemp. And the players looking around at the whistle. No foul was called. Just untangling the play. More than halfway through this second quarter. Jackson got that blocked, maybe just a fingertip, but it was enough to alter the path.
Still trying to see if Marquette can go on some sort of run and get some momentum after the timeout. Just at least trying to end the second quarter on a good note.
Look at Tippins just snatch that rebound in with one hand. And the big man is going to make his way down floor. Kemp to Horn, front of the rim, and like we mentioned earlier today with RHI, that's just beautiful court vision, spacing, and awareness.
Yeah, and these two teams move the ball in such a way it's tough to keep up with. They always find a way to get good looks when they truly need one.
Oh, speaking of great looks, Quintero able to feed it through traffic to Kat Redden. Cat and mouse that time from Quintero. He, of course, has been the focal point of the defense for Lakeshore.
And they've done such a good job as well, shutting him down. He only has 2 of the team's 10.
And one coming, however, for Pee Wee Kemp on the other end. And I was going to mention this earlier. Marquette is having a really difficult time stopping the ball from getting to the rim. And because of that, we really haven't had to see Lakeshore rely at all on the perimeter shots. The bigger problem is, they've got 2 premier outside shooters in Kemp and Horn.
It's also tough to deal with. Do you want to bother with Seth Tippins down there? Would you rather take your chances with Tippins down there or any of one of their guards?
Seen a lot of attention on Jackson, who's usually the facilitator, Jen Jackson, that is. And that's allowed Kemp and Horn to play this 2-man game, which continues to work. Largest lead grows to 19 for the Lakers. Whistle off the ball as a foul will be called on Pee Wee Kemp. He was tangled up with Macari Sekulic. The most fun name to say. Max, of course, from Norway. He get a lot of practice with the multiple syllables.
It's always a fun little challenge. Remember, I took phonetics in college, so I learned about the literal pronunciations. So when you look into how you actually pronounce it, I'm just getting flashbacks from college. That was a fun time, though.
Flashback to my college days, but it's all in black and white. And again, discussed this in the opening quarter. Marquette's playing better than they did in the first quarter, and nonetheless, the lead has grown. It's because possession by possession, Lakeshore just methodically outplays you. Might not be this big disruption. Quintero dropping it off. Rivera spins it home.
Nice pick and roll between Rivera and Quintero. That's probably the best look they've had all game. But speaking of the Lakers, they're just getting into their sets and motions faster.
Horn with the no-look horse shot. Kemp will clean it up for him. There's 90 seconds remaining in this opening half. Let's see if Lakeshore doesn't try to go 2 for 1 here with about 1:15 to work with. Jackson is taking the clock down a bit. Kemp finds Etheridge. Rare opportunity for Madison Etheridge. Didn't get the bucket, but they will have an opportunity, barring something unforeseen, for that 2 for 1 scenario.
Yeah, and all the attention was on Pee Wee Kemp. He had 2 to 3 players looking in his direction. That left the wide open lane.
So Lakeshore basketball, shot clock off. 5-on-3 situation for Lakeshore. Coaches imploring them to go. Jim Jackson also knows time, score, and clock. 5 seconds, and Jackson gets a beautiful pass from Kemp and finishes the half with an exclamation point. 19-point lead for the two-time defending champs, matching their largest of the opening half. 31-12 is our halftime score. We'll adjourn for now from the Henrico Sports and Events Center. You take another look at Jim Jackson and the dynastic Lakeshore Lakers. Back with all the second half action in a few moments from the 2025 Wheelchair National Championship.
For me, what is important is that I possibly had a little piece of something to do with you and your game along the way. It's all about the person next to you, man. I always felt that way with teammates and in life, you know. It's about other people. I played for the U.S. national team for 4 different decades and was a captain of most of those teams. And there was some gold medals and other medals and a lot of jubilation and a lot of heartbreak along the way. But all that's got me to this point right now where I'm in a give-back mode. I've always felt that way about basketball, is to not just be on the take. I became commissioner of the NWBA as a player just because of my desire to try to leave the sport better than, you know, when I was in it. 3-on-3 came to me because I love street ball. I thought about the opportunity where other players would get the chance to play with great players that they never thought they'd have a chance to play with. That's why the format here is you enter as an individual, and then we do a draw or make the draw ourselves so that we level the playing field as much as we can. PerformX is involved, and we bring in some of their players to sprinkle with the local talent. It's just got win-win written all over it. Every year we have some new faces, but the core group keeps coming back because they love it. I get a lot of feedback from young players that I made a difference in their life, not just basketball, but in their life. And that I can take with me with my head up high, even more so than wins and golds. With the start of this 3-on-3, it's bigger than any individual. It's bigger than me. It's not what you lost, it's what you gained.
PerformX today with the one and only Matt Scott.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for making the trip to Dallas.
This is my first trip to the PerformX headquarters, so I had never actually seen what it takes for it to go from like a small couple bars to a gold medal chair, finished product. It's been amazing and a cool experience to see a finished product and what it starts from.
Tell us a little bit about how the involvement with PerformX helps you achieve your goals as an athlete.
The first wheelchair basketball chair that I've ever had was a PerformX. The first time I've ever been in a sports chair was a PerformX. And I think me playing in a PerformX really allows me to perform at the best of my ability.
Let's talk about the U.S. Paralympic team a little bit. So you're a defending gold medalist.
That's right.
Can you talk about your journey to get that gold?
It was quite the drought that we were on. I was part of the team in 04, in 08, in 2012 that wasn't able to bring home the gold. So to finally make our way up to the top of the mountain and show the world what we're truly capable of was just, I mean, it took a lot.
So you have your professional wheelchair basketball career in Europe.
Yep.
Then obviously you have some involvement here in the U.S.
Yep.
What are your future plans for that?
Well, I want to go to Tokyo. It's no secret to anybody that I want to be a part of that team. I'm going to work my butt off and bring home another gold medal. That's the ultimate goal. We've set a standard for ourselves, a golden standard. We've proved to the world that we're the best team, and I want to be a part of it when we do it back to back.
Today we're at PerformX here with Matt Bolig. Can you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, how you were injured, how long ago, and how adaptive sports has, kind of helped you in your rehabilitation?
I got hurt lifting weights in college at Ottawa. I was doing step-ups and 315 pounds and stepping up on a box, and it just slipped one day, came down on my butt, and actually pinched my spinal cord at T11, T12. And I thought that was the end, honestly. If it wasn't for basketball, I wouldn't be in the adaptive sports world. Meeting all the people that not only play basketball, but do other things has led me to countless adventures around here. When I was at Mizzou, I played basketball, obviously, but I needed a capstone internship to graduate. My capstone internship was out in Utah. Out there, I learned how to wakeboard. I did mountain biking, rock climbing, rode cycles, in town played sled hockey, and that just kind of blew up my world in a way that was good. I just thought it was only basketball, honestly, and tennis. But once I found those things, it was love at first sight. I came back, met up with Midwest Adaptive Sports, that's who I work for now.
And they're located in Kansas City?
Yeah, they're located in Kansas City. All of our teams are managed by a director. So like I'm the director of basketball. We do everything we did out in Utah except for no mountain biking on top of mountains. It's cut trails and forests and stuff like that. But it's fun. You and I, we grew up playing sports before we were hurt or injured, and that's something that kids with disabilities who are born with it, don't have a choice. It's a need. It's definitely a need.
So we're excited to work with you and see if we can keep meeting the needs of your program as it evolves and grows over time.
Definitely. Well, thank you guys so much for what you guys have done in the past and in the future too.
Formax signed me when I was 16 years old, before I accomplished anything in this sport. They were the first ones who believed in my capabilities, and I'll never be able to repay them for what they've given me. Not only from a product side of it, they believed in my potential before I even did. This is my way of giving back to their organization and their grassroots program that they're putting together here at DK's 3-on-3. It's just something I'm honored to be a part of. It's starting to get to that time where it's my turn to give back. If that means helping kids get to college, that's something I'd be interested in. If it's helping a D3 kid work really hard to get up to the championship level, that's something I'd be interested in. It's getting to the point where championships, gold medals, that's becoming less of a priority, but to give back to the sport that has given me everything in my life, if I have the opportunity to do that, I'm going to take advantage of it.
Lakeshore does having the deeper roster help, but it's mostly a 7 to 8 man rotation that really has gotten them to this point, as we're now underway with Marquette getting started. Three from Sekulic is short. Jin the rebound.
I do like that shot early in the shot clock. When you face a 19-point deficit against a team that can play a ball control style like Lakeshore, you don't have a ton of time to allow these possessions to unfold.
Yeah, normally when you're down in a lot of scenarios, taking risks sometimes helps, maybe even out, you know, the weights a little bit. Quintero could miss off his own offensive rebound.
Kemp, speaking of getting fancy, flipped it up and over Sekulic.
He looks so comfortable on the floor right now as he dishes it down low. Tippins couldn't get the follow.
Tippins comes wheeling out of there hot. Good observation by Dr. Schneider. He's definitely leaned out since last year, looking much more athletic a year later.
Redden tries to create something, shoots over Kemp and gets the two to drop. Redden with their first bucket after the first half. She now sits at 6, leading all Marquette scores.
And again, there's an adjustment from Marquette. Single touch possession, right? Have a shot, take the shot. Redden has showcased that she's capable of making them.
Kemp the dish, and there's Etheridge with the answer.
The unsung hero for this Lakeshore team.
She sure does a little bit of everything.
And does it selflessly while the others get the headlines. Just like that right there, stopping the ball from Quintero.
There's post for 2. Has been one of the more consistent scores for this Eagles roster. Here, open up throughout the entire game. He had the first bucket from either team.
Now here's the challenge for Marquette. You can't match possessions like that. Nice one on the other end, defensive lapse on the defensive end.
And Jackson Horn just attacking the angle so well, just attacking that back wheel, goes the other way. Forces the defender to be uncomfortable with where he wants to move the chair.
Kemp.
Quintero off the offensive rebound. Redden off the back iron. Tippins flips it over. Here's Kemp with a free layup. Couldn't get it in.
Quintero did a nice job, very subtly turning the wheel of Pee Wee right there. The last moment altered that shot.
Quintero, short from the right elbow. Kemp corrals the rebound. He has Tippins to his left, finds the big man, uses the glass. Nice execution of transition artistry from the Lakers as they have a 21-point lead, 6.5 left here in the third quarter. The Lakers inching closer and closer to the semifinals as they've made the last 2 years in a row. Gage Hendricks will now get his first minutes of the game. Jackson Horn, sitting at a dozen, will now take a seat. Coach Savannah Gardner spoke to me about the ever so 6-man being as important as he is. Gage Hendricks played throughout most of the game earlier today, and you would have thought he would have started throughout the entire year with how well he was playing.
Yeah, again, speaks to the depth, and he was out there because Pee Wee Kemp was not. But Kemp comes back, Hendricks goes back into that 6-man role, and you just get ever more dangerous.
Jin finds the rolling Tippins as he strolls on by for his 10th point of the game. The Lakers, a 23-point lead, 6 minutes left here in the third quarter. Marquette trying to just break the deadlock, but unable to do so. This Lakers team plays with this unrelenting energy.
They do, and they also play under control. And again, possession by possession, the Lakeshore belief is it's not a conceded one. We're better than you. And if we just play every possession out, we're going to ultimately win the game.
Kemp, the bounce pass, Jackson, the beneficiary.
And for the last 2+ years, that has certainly been the case. And while we've got a one-sided affair here, on our other championship court in the other quarterfinal, it was a 3-point game at the half. The top-seeded Hawks and the 8th-seeded Roland Hornets of Charlotte. The 3-point lead for the Hawks now is 5, about a minute and a half into the third quarter.
Post off the miss from the wing. Here comes Jin Jackson, a full head of steam. She looks to reset, finds Kemp, bounce pass, Tippins. Holding foul on the floor. Referee Steve Briston, all eyes on that one, as that's the second personal foul to Julian Rivera. 4:41 left in the third. That's the first team foul. So Marquette, despite being down as much as they are, they only have 3 total team fouls, 1 in each quarter.
Well, and that's not a good thing, actually. That means they're not playing with a level of physicality that you need to stop some of this penetration and force Lakeshore to play a little bit more from the perimeter, which in my opinion is really the only fighting chance that they have.
And if you settle, or if you make them settle for long-range shots, there's more of an opportunity you'll get a rebound.
And long rebounds where you can get your transition offense going.
Ball rolls off the floor. It's going to be Lakers basketball with a pretty commanding 41-16 lead. And they just force so much pressure around the basket that makes the defense react to them, which is what you want in a game where you're supposed to control the opponent. Jen Jackson is together with Seth Tippins. To her left, here's Kemp, as well as Madison Etheridge and the 6-man Gage Hendricks. Tippins gets rejected by Lesh. And here come the Eagles looking to create something in transition.
And live ball, loose ball leads to a breakout for Marquette. You need more of that if you're the Golden Eagles. And I think to further illustrate that point is you saw Marquette sit back in a soft half-court shell there. Lakeshore has not attempted a three-point shot yet.
Shot rattles up and in. Taylor Post sits now at 8, looking to approach to become the first Eagle in double figures. Here comes Pee Wee Kemp. He has Jackson to his right. Looks away. Finds Jackson. Foul line jumper is pure. Jen Jackson, joint leading scorer for the Lakers. She sits at 12 together with Jackson Horn. But you can also thank Pee Wee Kemp for the abundance of assists, creating havoc around the foul line.
Yeah, and the reason he's able to do that is we remind ourselves why he's one of the best players in the country is if you watch his strokes on his wheels, he's probably the best player in this tournament at manipulating that strength to allow himself to maneuver in between dribbles. It just gives him limitless opportunities. He's moving more effortlessly than you are, basically, as you try to guard him.
And that natural flow and that natural talent, it's hard to come by.
You know, in able-bodied basketball, you use the term glide speed a lot. The elite players have that glide speed, and what that means is it looks like they're just floating around the floor. Meanwhile, you're running, try to keep up with them. Well, in wheelchair basketball, same thing. Pee Wee Kemp has that glide speed, and it's just very difficult to keep up with that.
Post, hit one shot earlier from the same spot. He gets fouled on the jumper.
Post has played really well in this game. Like you mentioned, Max, he's got 8 points, but none of those have been easy. All of those have been mid-range efforts.
As Amelia Bowser called for her first personal, teams first in the third. And that's what the Lakers want Marquette to be doing, taking these difficult shots from ranges that's just as punishing. They're 2 points, but you can get 2 points closer and closer.
Yeah, if you were applying value or a rating to each shot that you can get, obviously the lay-ins are the most valuable. The three-point shot, if you can hit them at a decent clip, right there as well. The least valuable shot in basketball is what you call the wood two. It's why intermediate basketball has died pretty much at the highest levels, wheelchair and NBA, college basketball, because the percentages don't climb that high on a 17-foot shot as opposed to a three-point shot. So to play a defensive system in which the opposition is taking a majority of those shots, you're going to win most of those games.
Both mathematically and figuratively.
And on the possession arrow, Lakeshore gets a freebie.
Lakeshore up 43-18 versus Marquette. Just looks to stroll on by and birth their trip to the semis. Will we have a dynasty on our hands? Who knows?
Well, I saw Lakeshore, you know, you watch the selection show and you see the seedings come out, and you know, the Hawks obviously very talented. We've seen the RHI racers. Jackson hits again, and we will again in our next quarterfinal. But with Tippins playing as well as he is, Kemp, Jackson, and Horn all back from a two-time national champion, it's hard to say that Lakeshore, despite not being the top seed, isn't the favorite this weekend.
We're about to find out, but the way they're playing right now, the only ones who can stop them are themselves at this point.
In this game, for sure. If they get matched up with RHI tomorrow, that might be a different story.
Yeah, that's going to be probably one of the more memorable games we'll see. A battle of which style will look to proclaim the victor.
Well, and again, we've got a lot of basketball to get there. I think this would be a very miraculous, to say the least, comeback for Marquette at this point, deep in the third quarter. But we still have that matchup between the Ranchos Halos and RHI. But let's say RHI prevails in that, and you get to see that NBA-like ball movement offense that we saw from RHI, and then you truly get to see the clamp-down ability of this Lakeshore Lakers defense. That's what I'm going to get out of bed tomorrow, hoping to see, and that's nothing against Ranchos, because that's my favorite coaching staff in this whole tournament.
Yeah, this Ranchos Halos team also a very, very formidable opponent. And based on our experiences of looking into each team, this RAC team is a very formidable team to take it to the next level as well. A minute and some change left. The Lakers up 45-18. Redden puts it up and in. Catherine Redden, stellar performance, scoring the basketball, now sits at 8, joint leading scorer together with Taylor Post. As a minute dwindles by left here in the third quarter, NWBA action brought to you by Performax. Kemp creates separation. Down low, here's Tippins, gets the bounce. Now Tippins sits at a dozen.
Just too many ways to get to the front of the rim for this Lakeshore team. But I love what Coach Wilkins is doing right here, and I talked about my admiration for Jordan Wilkins, the head coach of Marquette, earlier in this game. He's got Gianni Quintero out of the game right now. It's not because he's upset with Quintero. It's because he's using this as a learning opportunity, I believe, to say, hey, you know what, come over here and look at what I'm seeing and look at what they're doing to us.
Should light a fire under you, huh?
Well, I think it's more of an educational opportunity. It might not lead to a win in this game, but it may lead to wins next year or later in this tournament on the other side of the bracket.
Well, so you never know when that switch just happens, where they sort of understand the dire situation they're in as 2 seconds left in the third. That's a turnover against the Lakers. And we'll have 10 minutes left of NWBA action here in Richmond, Virginia. John Laser aside of me, my name's Max Cates. We'll be back in a short moment. Lakers, Eagles, NWBA action.
For everybody watching,
This is called the
DK 3-on-3. It's one of a kind.
environment's unreal.
Some of the greatest players.
At the top of their game,
Front row center.
playing at the highest level. Wounded veterans, collegiate athletes.
Putting in work.
These courts are iconic.
Competition.
Some of the most hollowed ground.
Venice Beach.
A war by the shore. You win, you move on. You lose, you're done.
Showcase.
These high-level
Superstar athletes that they are.
The soul of the game. There's no doubt.
It's all about the energy.
Honor and respect.
There's so much more than just winning and losing.
This is what it's about.
The DK3.
This is bigger than wins and losses. It's a blessing.
Moments underway from the start of the fourth quarter between the Birmingham, Alabama team, Lakeshore Lakers, number 3 seed against the number 11 seed, Wisconsin Adaptive Sports Association, WASA Marquette Eagles. Alongside me is John Laser. My name is Max Cates.
You nailed that, Max. That's a mouthful. Wisconsin Adaptive Sports Association.
Yeah, you told
Crushed
me.
it.
Yeah, you told me WASA. I'll tell you what it means. I'll tell you once. And I said, fair enough.
But you were up to the challenge, my friend, and I appreciate that.
Oh, I won't say no to challenges.
Well, I'll tell you what, the top seed has a challenge on their hands behind us. Just a 3-point game still with a couple minutes to play in the third quarter.
It's going to be interesting to see, will they be able to pull out the win, or will we see a perennial upset, if you might will, or if it even is an upset at that point because it is so close.
Yeah, that 8 over the 1, that would definitely be a surprise, despite the pedigree of that Charlotte program, arguably one of the best in the country.
Yeah, the We Believe team, if you remember, the Golden State Warriors beating just the Dirk Nowitzki MVP here. Luckily, he wound up winning a championship a couple years later. Well, this is April Madness, to say the least. You know, it's on March Madness in college. We're in April. And we're a little bit past April Fools as well, but a good upset, a good Cinderella story. There's nothing like it in sports.
No, there's not, and that's why you've seen our crowd thin out a little bit. If you look back at our other quarterfinal, they've got about 3 times as many people watching at the moment. It's no disrespect to these young athletes, but to your point, Max, there's quite a bit more drama in that other quarterfinal.
Well, you never know what kind of twists and turns are going to happen in an unexpected event. When you're looking at a close game like this, you just want to know what's going to happen next. You want to see the next move in action. Who wouldn't want to take their eyes off of that? Here comes Jackson. Nice dish down low. The feed too strong from Bowser.
Well, it's nice to see Amelia Bowser getting some minutes along with Garrett Guthrie here. Jackson Horn on the bench.
Rivera called for the charge.
Jackson Horn on the bench along with Madison Etheridge. So a couple starters on the bench to start the fourth quarter. And Coach Gardner would probably love to keep them there and also get Kemp a little more rest and Tippins a little more rest, because this is a difficult format. You've got to win 4 games in 3 days, including 2 today. Any minutes that you can rest, as we'll see another sub here on the next whistle come in.
Tippins down low. The and one opportunity is there. Amelia Bowser with her first bucket. 7:23 left to play. I thought I heard a whistle. That was a foul here, but Amelia Bowser making some noise with the layup.
And that's a great moment, as we've discussed many times before. That first bucket in a national championship environment. You're going to remember that for a long, long time.
Tippins corrals the rebound. And it's not often you can say that you are participating in a national event, the best of the best in the country. That's rare to say.
1-point game in our other quarterfinal, by the way.
Shots missed by the Lakers. Ball would go out of bounds. 6:45 left to play, a 51-26 game. The Lakers have 3 scores with double digits. It's Jackson Horn with 12. He sat early on in the second half. Jin Jackson, consistent shooting as always with 14 points. Seth Tippins doing his job, setting the screens as you want him. He also has a dozen.
I've been really impressed with Tippins in this game. The maturation physically, the maturation emotionally. He's really been the guy that has stirred the drink, as it were, thus far for Lakeshore. And as impressive as they were last year in winning their 2nd consecutive national championship, this team I'm looking at right now is even more well-rounded than last year's, and that's because of Tippins.
Tippins is like the chef in the kitchen, while we have the front of house with the guards with Kemp and Horn. But it's a total team effort in the end of the day.
He is, and he's shopping for the finest ingredients at Whole Foods, let me tell you, because he's cooking with some of the best players in the country. But you also have to give credit to the ones you mentioned, Max, you know, the stars, so to speak, of this Lakeshore team. They really know how to utilize him if they're getting crowded, utilizing him to score the easy buckets, and if they're not, to give and get back.
Yeah, and it's the little plays that matter, like the one crucial rebound or even his presence alone. Anywhere he goes, he just creates this little rift around him because he's so big, and it's so tough to deal with a muscular player like him, especially at, this varsity level. And as you've alluded to, he's taking care of his body better. You can see his frame is leaner, but he's also gotten some muscle. That truly shows the effort and the dedication he's had for an event like this.
Without question, and if you're going to attempt to win 3 consecutive of anything, you have to have that dedication to it, because you get everybody's best shot, wherever it may be, in a regional and the nationals, of course, anytime you take to the floor. Speaking of, Clara Stanfield has taken to the floor for Lakeshore, so good to see, again, more and more players getting an opportunity on this stage, but that also means more and more rest for Lakeshore's regulars.
Shot is just short by Amelia Bowser. That's going to be a shot clock violation. Marquette will have possession. Here comes Quintero. Couldn't get the shot to drop. Offensive rebound up and in. It's post yet again. Taylor Post now sits at double digits. The only Marquette player with that number.
And again, tiebreakers aren't settled if there are tiebreakers by point differential. So Coach Gardner's fine with this right now as long as the clock keeps turning. A lot of her regulars on the bench. Meanwhile, Charlotte in the other quarter had a really good look to tie the game. Didn't get it, and now the Hawks back up by 4.
21-point game here. Once the ball inbounds, it's going to be a running clock. Looking for his... Here comes Alex Lesh checking into the game for Marquette. Ava Finger started the game. She's on the floor as well for this Marquette team, together with Sydney Whaley-Smith.
And only one starter remains on the floor for Lakeshore at the moment, and that is Jen Jackson.
Shots up and in. Jillian Rivera for 2.
I think the only way you're going to see Horn or Kemp again in this game is if it gets down to 10.
Wonder what Jackson's thinking, that she's the only starter on the floor. Maybe why me kind of thing.
I think she's probably thinking the opposite, Max, going, I'm the one she trusts to keep all the reserve players kind of aligned.
Yeah, Gardner told me she's that glue that keeps everybody together. We know we have this 2-guard monster with Kemp and Horn, but she has truly made it easy for everybody to gel.
Right on that point, she disrupts that possession for Marquette.
Now she gets it back from the pass from Hendricks. Jackson looks to maneuver through the teeth of the defense. Gets stopped. Good defense by Julian Rivera.
Taking a possession deep into the shot clock at this point for Lakeshore is just as valuable as scoring a basket. They'd love to do both and don't, but that, again, was a possession. They took it down to about 6 on the shot clock. They'll live with that with a 19-point lead. Just caught Savannah Gardner side-eyeing the scoreboard.
Who hasn't been at this point?
Nice addition, by the way, on the big 4-sided video board they have here. They've got all the action throughout the entire facility, which is phenomenal to be able to keep track of your bracket.
Kat Redden looks to pull and knocks it down. That's a nice stroke from Redden. She now sits at 10.
That's her spot.
Yeah, you can tell. Nothing but confidence in that jump shot. Jin will just fire the deep ball. That one goes off the chair of the Lakers' Garrett Guthrie, so it's going to be Marquette basketball.
Yeah, that was a bit surprising because Jen Jackson looked right at Coach Gardner before she shot that, and I'm not sure if Coach Gardner said go ahead and pull the trigger because that was very early in the shot clock. Counterintuitive to trying to run this game out.
That's going to be a little tussle, a jump ball situation in our hands. It's Alec Lesh and Garrett Guthrie, as Guthrie's on his back trying to get up, trying to lean towards the left wheel of Lesh. All smiles, though.
Coach Gardner almost laughing on her way out there to help her player.
She said, check in, Madison Etheridge, your time to shine.
So one of the starters for Lakeshore will have to come back. Again, a reminder, we have one more quarterfinal coming on our broadcast court, 6 o'clock, Ranchos Halos, RHI Racers, and then tomorrow, both semis, 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock. And Championship Sunday, 3 consecutive championship games, 10, 12, and 2.
So the Lakers only had 4 players on the court. Now the coaching staff is telling Lakers' Seth Tippins to check into the game. Now he's ready to go.
Dr. Schneider says he's not going to pull a Hoosiers, and that's timely, the unfortunate passing of Gene Hackman a couple weeks ago. Memorably said, Coach Norman Dale, my team is on the floor. Coach Gardner did not say that. So let me get a fifth.
Tippins will launch off the front rim.
We are getting a glimpse at how important these 4 seniors are for Lakeshore, Max. Since they've had the majority of them off the floor, there really hasn't been any rhythm to the offense like there generally is.
No, because that creation that you get from Horn, Jackson, as well as Kemp, it's tough to replicate, let's say, one of the best players in the country. Those are a dime a dozen. Some players just have that ability to just create something out of nothing, and that is something you can't teach. That is something you're born with.
Well, and that's kind of what I was discussing earlier during the RHI game. They had really system-based offense. And, of course, Caden does such a great job of orchestrating that offense. But a lot of set plays, a lot of off-the-ball movement. Lakeshore has a very different offense where there's a lot of individual freedom and creation within the offense. And to your point, you can coach it, and by coaching it, you're essentially giving that license rather than saying you're here, you move here. It's, wow, here's my talent, you're out there, and let's flow this way. Motion offense as opposed to a ball control offense.
Yeah, and it's an interesting take to see how will a system, when they're stumped, how will they incorporate unpredictability in a play that is so organized, kind of like a robot in many ways, against a free-flowing offense that relies on strictly instinct. As the ball gets tussled around between Etheridge and Redden.
Well, and what makes Lakeshore so difficult to scout and prepare for, I would imagine, is that it's essentially a motion read offense where the ball's brought down the floor. You see how the defense reacts, and then whoever's playing the point guard position decides where to funnel the basketball. That's hard enough a lot of times when you have an elite point guard, but you've got 4 people that routinely handle the ball for Lakeshore. So that means you've got all these different variations if you're looking at film and you're an opposing coach or you're trying to scheme it up defensively. And then if you shut down one, you've got to deal with the other 3. On the other side of that for RHI, Caden Schaff is just flat out elite. So regardless of where those sets are going, Schaff has the ability to make it work regardless of the way that you defend it. Now, of course, Lakeshore, if we get that matchup, is going to try to take Schaff as much out of the game and off the ball as possible. Their level of success may determine, again, if we get that matchup, who's in the championship game.
Well, you better tune in and figure it out for tomorrow, because it's going to be a big one. NWBA stream brought to you by Performax. Multiple years of wheelchair excellence as we're approaching half a minute left to play. The Lakers up by as much as 15. It's a 51-36 deficit. Shot clock turned off.
And for Marquette to take confidence into their next game in this bracket. They're going to close the game on a 10-0, potentially more if they decide to take a shot here. It doesn't look like they will. But a 10-0 run to finish the game. So they'll finish with memories of the ball finding the basket.
And that will do it. The Lakeshore Lakers are returning to the NWBA semifinals for a third consecutive year in a row, looking to make it another dynasty, 3 championships in a row. Alongside me is John Laser, as well as Dr. Cord Schneider. My name's Max Cates. Thanking all of you for tuning in for some wheelchair basketball hoops, but we got more coming up later. Stay in tune.